So I have Gautam Ghosh with me, and thank you so much for taking time. And I remember that earlier when I was just coming out of the college, we ran a competition called the bloggers from B schools, and we were looking at, because blogging was pretty new that time. Amit Agarwal used to blog, and Labnol, and people were very, following him. That somebody had posted that
Amit Verma and Amit
Agarwal. So I think, yeah, somehow right, and somehow someone wrote that he makes $3,000 a day, and then everyone was like, we want to be like Amit Agarwal. So we were looking at who are the bloggers in Indian B school segment, and I remember that you winning it, and we were running it. So I think at that time the blogging was pretty new. I have read so many of your blogs and got inspired, and I started writing blogs, and I learned so much from you. So it's almost now 14-15 years that we are coming back. So let me ask you a few things. That when you started digital so early, and you're doing so many things around HR, so what is your current focus, and tell us more about what you're doing right now.
So currently I'm working in two areas. One is helping organizations understand that they have to invest in digital for employer branding. Essentially, what you do for products, how do you do it as an organization to attract candidates, relevant candidates. It's not just attracting a mass number of candidates. Essentially, using digital storytelling to say, this is us, this is our company, and this is our culture. What it also does, you have a hard driving sales driven culture. When you say we are a hard driving sales driven culture, you're also saying what you are not. So somebody who doesn't resonate with working in a hard driving sales driven culture will not apply.
Absolutely.
So you get targeted people to, essentially looking at the whole marketing aspect applying to consumers, creating candidate personas, looking at candidate journeys, how the candidate journey itself has changed at every point of time, from consideration to application to interview to offer. A candidate is always looking at, there's some data that candidate is still continuously looking at reviews. And a candidate might also drop off after the offer letter if he comes across a negative review of the organization. So telling people that candidate experience itself, like customer experience, is critical. It is also business impactful. So Virgin Media actually did a study in which they looked at, if a candidate has had a negative experience, there's a high probability of chance that he will never in his lifetime become a Virgin Media customer. And they put a dollar value to it for some million pound value, because it was done in the UK. And then they went and presented that to the marketing department, saying, if we don't, so it's a business problem.
Absolutely.
It's not an HR problem. It's not just a recruitment problem. It has implications for business. So even say the company that manufactures Oreos in the US communicates back to every applicant. And then somebody asks, why you communicate back to every applicant? How is that? Says, even if he's a wrong candidate, everybody loves cookies. I don't want to lose him as a customer.
Absolutely.
Because I haven't got back to him. So I think tying back business, so that's the one area I'm working on with organizations. The other set of people I'm working are HR service providers who want to leverage digital to reach out to the HR heads, decision makers, to market their products. So it's more about content marketing strategy for them. How do you identify who the decision makers are? So it's marketing support or digital marketing support for providers of HR services, HR technologies, to the HR community itself.
And you correctly said, and I always believed, that the best people that you want to hire will not come from probably a job portal because they are looking for a job, and best people, they always have multiple offers before they even take a decision. So if you need the best talent, you need to attract the talent. And in that, how should a company start? Should they make a website separately for a career website, or should we have a different Facebook page for this? Is there any practice that you advise to people?
So again, a company first has to identify what is its talent problem that is trying to solve. So as an example, in Philips, and I'll share these examples in the session yesterday. Philips' problem was it was seen as a lighting company when it went to campuses, into MBA campuses. But the fact of the matter is, more than 70% of Philips' revenues were B2B. Healthcare, consumer lifestyle, and lighting. Lighting is now spun off as a separate company. But it was also always seen, and even though that time the whole radio, TV, electronics division had been spun off, the traditional, people would still equate Philips with those. And so we said, okay, how do we attract interesting, how do we change the perception of Philips at a B school level? So we actually ran a campaign which had, and I'll share more details around that, but focused on each of the 3 businesses of Philips and asked people to submit their stories around those themes. While they do so, we gave away Philips goodies as prizes, and we had almost, for a budget of less than 25,000 rupees, we had around 800, 900 submissions from across 15 B schools across the country, the top 15, because we used our existing alumni relations, university campus relations group to reach out specifically to those. And that kind of made the awareness, Philips is not just a lighting company, it's healthcare. Before the launch of the campaign, we would say why we are choosing this theme. So it's my health, it's my style, what lights up my life. So we said, okay, we're choosing this theme because Philips has done this. So there was education on the part of the campaign. And then while reading that, they would come to know, okay, Philips has more share in the market than GE Healthcare. So those things we could communicate to the target audience. So again, essentially, you have to start with the business problem. What is it you're trying to solve? Then work backwards, saying what's the objective, then what steps will I take, and then figuring out which channel. So for example, we said, should we do it on Facebook? Should we do it on Twitter? Should we do it on Instagram? Then we said, we don't want to limit what kind of submissions we do. So we said, we'll do it on a WordPress blog. And we would say, okay, whichever post gets the maximum number of shares across networks, because you put those chiclet buttons after every post. And we would say, your post is put up, please share it. So then they would become motivated to share it across networks. So then we would track on WordPress the stats, etc. And because of that, we were also less likely to be gamed, because while they could do some programming and change the numbers, but at the back end, WordPress gives you stats as to which post is being visited most. So we did that, and so every week we would hand out 10 winners. So that also ensured, and the things was like, Philips speakers, Bluetooth speakers, or hair straighteners for women, or beard trimmers for the guys. And those are, at the campus level, those cause excitement, but at very minimal cost to the organization.
And see, in today's digital world, finding out a new job, finding out new things to do, even from an employer perspective, they're finding a dearth in the talent. They are approaching the guys on LinkedIn and other places. So there's a lot of attrition that also happens, which is not an attrition always initiated by employee. Sometimes the external forces are forcing them and saying that let me take up an opportunity anywhere else. Do you think that the companies needs to have a policy around social media, on what is put on social media from employees, or should it be plain and simple, let it run as it is? Because I've seen big companies have social media policies, whereas SMEs don't have any social media policies as such. Do you recommend any kind of a social media policies for companies of certain sizes?
So, social media policy is critical in today's day and age. But the mistake I think most companies make is the social media policy is more about don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You never clarify what should you do. And you can actually, when a person is onboarded, say you can share anything about the company so long as the information is not confidential or proprietary. So I remember in Flipkart, some town hall meetings would start off with the announcement of, guys, please do not tweet, Instagram or share on Facebook any of the things that we're going to talk about now. But other public things of, a day where bring your kids to work day, or some other celebration, or Independence Day, Ethnic Day, whatever, you would encourage people to, if you want to, share it. So there are some things a guy will share, okay, I've got Performer of the Month award or something. He would share that because he's proud of his achievement. He would not share the proprietary because you've told him not to do that. But there's a gray area of things that are happening in the company. I would like to share it. And so what we used to do was, I would say, okay, I posted this on the LinkedIn company page. There was a email listserv called Spam and Chatter within the Google Apps group email, which was essentially things about I'm looking for a roommate, people would post there, or I'm heading to the airport, anybody else going to the airport, so that we pool in Bangalore, the distance is huge. So there were all kind of messages coming in. So once I post something, I would say, guys, I posted this on LinkedIn, feel free to share it, like it and comment it, or share it with your networks. Or I posted this on Twitter, this is the link, share it. What I also did was, so I would manage the Twitter career handle of Flipkart. It was called Work at Flipkart. And I would then, I painstakingly compiled a list of all the current employees of Flipkart active on Twitter. So for example, one of the persons who heads the books category in Flipkart once posted that, and he's quite a celebrity, mini celebrity in Twitter himself, because he talks about books and passionate around books. He's a kind of in the books community, he's a voice. So one day he posted something and I would scan what are they posting. So he would say, today I'm going to do my first theatre performance. So I would retweet that from the Flipkart handle saying, all the best Vivek, hope you are first. So it's not just a broadcast, you're kind of also showcasing your employees have other talents, other passion, and as an organization you're encouraging it. So that, I think these are commonsensical things to do.
Absolutely.
And maybe because I know how Twitter works and I know how but most organizations, if they're just doing it, these things don't strike them saying, I can showcase my employees. And not just experts. You can showcase ordinary employees doing ordinary things and they are excited because, hey, the company handle which has 40,000, 50,000 followers just retweeted my post. And
But you've been an observer of HR practices in India and otherwise for last so many years, and now you have millennials and Gen Z. So do you think some changes has happened in the way people take up a job, or what are the things that you have observed? It may not be related to digital, but anything around the HR that you've seen as a major change happening?
And I think people are essentially the same. So there is, I think the generational divide is a myth. It's just that there are more tools available now. Everybody uses it. And, so when I go to, so the example, so I went to Indian Oil PSU to talk to their HR team, which was doing their offsite, and they wanted me to talk about what is employer branding, digital and all. So I said, have you heard of something called Quora? And they said no. So I pulled up a post where somebody had asked how is it working in this oil PSU, and a current employee, name, designation, everything visible on Quora. It was not an anonymous post. Gave down 10 or 11 reasons why he or she works in that organization. How did he choose between this PSU and other PSUs? Why did he choose it? Career in marketing versus career in sales or career in retail. And so I say, this is available. It's public. You don't even have to log into Quora to know this. It's and getting it indexed in Google. So if somebody says, how is it working in this, that post will come up more than your career page.
Exactly.
So just the awareness of saying, hey, there are these various sites out there, and so once you say, okay, how do I leverage this? So you say, somebody from the HR team, keep scanning it, or put a Google alert around your company name. Just basic listening of. So I'm not sure whether I answered the question.
And I think what you said is right. If you're aware of it, probably the rest of the things will not matter. If you're not aware of it, I think the statement that I said in the morning as well, it is okay not to know digital, but it is not okay not to learn it. Because learning, once you do it, I think there's no age bar to it. As long as you are...
Some of the most prolific HR tweeters are people who are 40 and above. So it's not... digital is not an age-related thing. It's a mindset. People who are comfortable having open, frank communication, conversations with each other. And I think Twitter is by far my favorite medium. But it's, you start discussing with two people, a third one joins in, a fourth one joins in. There's a richness of the conversation that's indexed, and the conversation then grows, more people join in. Sometimes it gets derailed also along a certain path. So of course those will happen. Social media, like relationships, are messy, and messiness will happen. Is not clean cut, because human relationships are not clean cut. So and I think Charlene Lee makes it a point in her first book, which is Groundswell, saying don't expect social media to be clean and non-messy, because human relationships are messy. So once you're comfortable with that reality, and it's not and I've met so-called millennials or people with just out of B school working for 6-7 years, being more wary of engaging digitally or getting their ideas known. It's easy to be sucked away into the non-productive discussions of politics, etc. Because a lot of people I know, respect, etc., also get into it. And so my thumb rule is to not stay away from those topics. Be clear what your objective for leveraging digital is, because your personal brand is your reputation. You don't want to smear your reputation by getting into fights or because then an employer, if it blows up, an employer will be very happy to let you go instead of, and today a lot of, for example, lots of examples of people making politically incorrect statements against religion, politics, etc. A guy, NRI in Dubai, lost his job because he made some statements against some country. And it's very easy, if you know the name of the person, to find out who the employer is. And the employer started getting tagged by people who were getting and then he lost his job. So why take a chance? Why kind of as you are as you focus on your offline reputation, your online reputation now matters also.
Even more, I will say that offline is known to few people, online is much more discoverable. So even if people who do not know you might find it out that what is your reputation, etc. And of course, as in HR, the way we say is, if you have doubt, you don't have doubt. So people will move forward and look at somebody else. I think these are amazing points, and especially from an HR perspective, that the things that we need to learn. And like Gautam was saying, that this is not about age, but this is about whether we are ready to have open conversation. Are we comfortable in talking about the topics that we are comfortable with? So those are pointers that we can take it forward. My last question is that since this is our second edition, so we would like to have 2 powerful tips from you, which from any field is okay. It's not related to digital or HR, anything that you're comfortable with, which people can take it and improve their lives.
So one is, everybody is talking about the nature of work is changing, and therefore everybody is responsible for their own learning. You cannot rely on your employer to give you the learning, because employer will give the learning what the employer needs you to do for next, for the next role, etc. But how do you keep yourself employable? Because today no industry is free from disruption. You are an incumbent in one industry, and as somebody said, your competition can come from any other industry. Any disruption can cause it. So the only thing that will help you cope with these constant changes, or as they call VUCA, which is uncertain, complexity, ambiguity. So V is forget what it stands for. You can Google it. So change which is constant, because earlier there was change, but change was spread out. So change would come every 20 years, 30 years. By the time it could make you redundant, your career was over. But now you have to reinvent yourself. Jobs that we are doing now didn't exist 5 years ago.
That's right.
So today what education gives you will not be relevant. The shelf life of knowledge is becoming shorter and shorter.
That's right.
So you've got to keep yourself updated on. Thankfully, due to digital, you can connect with existing thought leaders. There are educational platforms. There are, things like Coursera, Udemy, edX, where you can, tomorrow if you're given a choice between sitting in a classroom and having some local professor come and talk to you about innovation versus listening to the Harvard's professor giving you a course on innovation along with a cohort of 1,500 students spread around the world, and you're given assignments and you do it with those people, and you get all the latest information, and you can do it at your own pace, own time. You don't have to sit 8 hours in a room. You can do it, in your commute, in post work. So that is, I think, one of the biggest things that I think, even YouTube. There are, if you want to learn anything on anything, YouTube is available.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, video and these what is called massive online open courses, MOOCs, are the future of continuous learning. But you have to take time out for learning. And I heard the global CHRO of Unilever talk about saying last week only, she at a conference, she said, if you're not investing 100 hours of learning in a year on yourself, then you are getting redundant. So how do you pull out 100 hours? You can't spend 6 days away from work. The whole thing is, how do you get leverage digital? And how the other thing is, careers themselves are overlapping. So the whole employer branding career has marketing and HR aspects. The whole people analytics part of HR that is becoming more critical has data analytics and people management as a overlap. So these overlap of careers between traditional careers, kind of getting knowledge from each other. HR technology is also about knowing what processes are in HR, but also knowing which technology to invest in, which to buy, so earlier the HR head would rely on the CIO's or the CFO's decision. But now there are people within HR who are very aware of which technology to use, because they know which is best in class, best in breed across various domains. So should I go for one size like a SAP SuccessFactors or Oracle or IBM, or should I go for smaller niche players in various different sub-functions? So the understanding and depth of service providers themselves have increased. Everybody is kind of focusing on now niche, high engagement, SaaS-based products. And I think the focus for growth for today's professionals are, how do you look at these in-betweens between two traditional separate functions, and that's where probably the growth will happen next.
And I think there were so many points that we can take it and we can start applying in our businesses. Thank you so much for your time, Gautam.
Pleasure.
And we're going to catch you further whenever we get time, so that we can learn more from you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for your time. Thank you so much.